In the final question, we're going to look at specifically, and in fact, the final one from the first test in the writing, is about tone and style. And the main distinction I want to draw here, there are perhaps others, but really this is the easiest ways to think about it, is formal versus informal tone. Or we might even say conversational tone. And maybe here we'll say professional, just so we can have this contrast. So when someone writes an essay, when you write an essay, for example, you always have to keep in mind what your audience is, what context you're writing in, and what the accepted type of language is for that particular context. So sometimes you want to be more formal. You want to be more professional. You don't want to use slang. You don't want to use colloquialisms. You want to be straightforward and direct and make sure your writing is formal and professional. In other cases, if you're writing something for a friend, for a fun magazine, or for your blog or something, whatever, you'd want to be more informal, more conversational, because writing in a stuffy, formal way may not be appropriate for that context. So on the SAT, sometimes you're going to have questions which are about that very thing, and you have to pick the choice that follows all the rules we've discussed before. It's got to be concise, it's got to be not redundant, it's got to fit within the context, but also you add this additional layer of making sure it fits the tone of the passage, the style of the passage. Let's look at an example here. Over time, I've gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues, another website developer, a graphic designer, a freelance writer, and several mobile app coders. Even those of us who work in disparate fields are able to share advice and help each other brainstorm. So looking at the original, nothing seems wrong with it. They're able to share advice, help each other brainstorm. It fits the tone of the passage. It's not overly formal, but it's also not informal. So let's look at the choices here. See if there's anything better. Even those of us who work in disparate fields are able to give some wisdom. This is pretty vague. Give some wisdom to whom? About what? It's just rather broad. Particularly this word some, I think, is problematic. It doesn't really fit with the specificity of the passage, and you might even say it's wordy as well. Are able to proclaim our opinions. So this is almost too formal, right? Proclaim our opinions. It's very lofty, very highfalutin language. But do we really need that here? No. Share advice does the job just right. You could also argue that proclaim our opinions isn't very specific, whereas share advice makes it clear that they're going back and forth and helping each other. So yeah, C is not going to work. How about D? Even those of us who work in disparate fields are able to opine and help each other brainstorm. So maybe too formal, but also just in terms of meaning doesn't make sense. To opine means to give your opinion, and just not as specific as something like share advice, which fits in with this idea about helping each other and being collaborative and all that good stuff. So share advice is going to be the best one. It fits in with the tone, it's concise, and it doesn't lose any meaning and doesn't add anything redundant. So we're going to go with choice A.